So today I wanted to talk about a practice to cultivate compassion. And I'm going to start out with a story about Nasruddin. Nasruddin is like the clown prince of the Sufis. And I'm going to call this one Nasruddin Meets Donald Trump. Okay. So Nasruddin was this traveling Sufi, and he would go from town to town and share his stories, and they're usually kind of comical and stuff. And in this one, he reaches the village of Tekka, and he inquires about the customs and regulations so that he could be a good citizen. And everybody points him to the most important man in the town, the guy who owns all the real estate, right? And so he goes to him and he's, honored sir, I beg you for a few minutes of your time so I can learn the customs and the rules of living in this town. And the guy's kind of like self-important. He says, I have a lot of things to do. I don't have time for you right now. But about 2 o'clock this afternoon, I'll be passing by, your apartment, and so I'll stop in and give you some advice. And Nasruddin is like, wow, the omniscience of this guy. You know where I live? And the guy says, I own the building, So Nasruddin is satisfied with that, and he goes off and goes to the marketplace and buys some vegetables and, carrots and peas and his favorite lentils. And he's all happy, and he sits down under a shade tree to just watch the people go by. And he starts to get drowsy, but he manages to stay awake until he doesn't, and falls asleep. And he's a Sufi. He doesn't know a watch. He doesn't know what time it is. And he wakes up with a start and sees that the sun is low in the sky and the shadows are long, and realizes that he probably missed the appointment. So he goes running to his apartment, and as he gets there, he sees that somebody, scratched with a white rock on his door, or maybe tagged it, the stupid oaf. And so Nasruddin, all nervous, he finds out where the important man lives, and he runs to his house and knocks on his door, and the man opens his door, and he says, I know you came by to visit me because you scratched your name on my door. So, of course, the moral of the story is when you judge somebody else, you're really like pointing to yourself. But if you reflect on the story deeper for a moment, you could start coming up with some of the ways that we get ourselves to judge people in this right-wrong duality. When you hear a story like that, like you want the bully to get his comeuppance, right? And everybody gets excited when it's Nasruddin turns the tables on the guy. But how often do we actually try to have compassion for the bully? We know that when we work with youth that every bully was most likely bullied. What's the expression? Hurt people hurt people. And those of us who do this work, it's easy to look underneath the behavior of our youth and say, well, they've been wounded and they're just acting out from their wounds. It's a little harder to do that with, others, with especially the people that annoy us. But I found that cultivating compassion, it's easy to be compassionate for somebody that you see as the underdog. Mm-hmm. If you really want to practice increasing your quotient for compassion, then how do you find compassion for those that, annoy the hell out of you that should know better? Okay. And to me, the secret is in my judgment. It is noticing when my judgment is coming up. Hooley speaks really well on this, at every echo. We all judge, So it's not hard to notice. Judgment is coming up. You're thinking somebody's an asshole, or whatever. And so when it comes up, to me, the trick is to dive fully into the judgment, to just see how deep that goes. Because then there's no residue, And then ask the question, what's underneath the behavior that we're judging? And if you can find compassion for the behavior that's really inconveniencing your life, now you're in a practice that helps you develop compassion. So, like one of my pet peeves are And you see this a lot in the hood, frankly. You know, people crossing the street and you're waiting to drive through the intersection, and they see you're waiting, so they slow down and walk at a snail's pace. And all the nodding heads, you know, here. So we've all experienced that. That's what that would get me, you know. And so now when it happens, I see the person and I let myself go, really? You know, and just let my annoyance just flood me. And then, you know, turn to, how can I find compassion for that, and what's underneath that behavior? And the first thing is, that poor SOB's got to walk and I get to drive, you know. And then maybe it even goes deeper than that, and you go to the place where it's like, how wounded could this person have been in their life, and how disempowered that they need to find some power by making me wait to cross the intersection. Can I give them that? You know, the one of the things that's, you know, in the political discourse is, you know, judging the politicians who are on the other side from us. So when the woman politician sounds shrill, okay, can I go, how disempowered might she have been growing up, a woman in this culture, that she had to go to desperate measures just to have her voice heard? And can I get past my irritation at the shrillness and actually hear the message and, you know, give her some credit? Now the trick is that compassion doesn't mean that you make that person president, okay? It's really a personal thing. It's really a practice that allows you to increase your ability to be compassionate and to love and to live in this world without always being in that judgment that kind of makes you miserable. So what was it? Gibran, Khalil Gibran said, "A thief is a man in need, a liar is a man in fear." You know. So if we can get past the behavior that's irritating us, and that doesn't mean excusing the behavior again, but to just see what's underneath it, then maybe we're moving toward a more healing way of being in the world. And compassion and love is you know, what heals. So that's the practice for cultivating compassion, is actually getting really deep into your judgment. And if you can climb out of that, then you're building the compassion muscle. So.